Zach, what's the plan at right guard this week?
Still working through it. That's not a decision we got to make today. So, again, it's our first day of practice. We'll go out there and take a look at some guys, but not a decision we got to make today.
Decision to waive Shaq Calhoun and then bring him back the very next day.
Just a transition we had to make with some other guys on the roster, and that was just the way we had to sort it out. Nothing against Shaq. It's just the way it had to play out for us to get the roster right.
What do you anticipate for Geno this week, Zach?
Hopeful, as always. We'll take it day to day and know more by the end of the week.
Will he practice today, Geno?
They'll start to work through some individual stuff over the course of this week.
How did Daniels come out of it? Did he come out of it okay?
No worse for the wear, and he does a good job taking care of his body over the course of the week. And so, it was good to have him back in the fold. He was helpful up there for sure.
Coach, could you talk a little bit about the Jaguars offensively and defensively, and then also their fine quarterback?
Yeah, so defensively, some changes from last year. There's a couple new pieces involved, but overall they play good, sound football. They've been playing these coverage styles that they play for a couple years now. Their linebacking core is really stands out to you. They added Schobert, and 44 has been a great player for them in the past, and is one of the great linebackers in this league. And so, it's obviously they lost their Sam Backer, and so they got Cassius Marsh in there now, who familiar with, having played against him in the NFC West there a couple years. And up front, they can rush the passer, and so those guys can get after you. They got some big interior run stoppers inside. The safeties can run and hit. Their corners, their young corner in particular is playing really good right now. Henderson, he was a good guy that took in the top 10, and he's got great ball skills. Really won him the game against Indy, knocking that ball out on fourth down. And Herndon's been there from last year, and DJ Hayden does a great job in the slot. So they got a lot of talent running around there over there on defense. So we got to be dialed in as usual, and they've done a good job this year. And then you look over the offense, and Minshew just does such a great job creating, extending, and plays with a lot of confidence. And those guys feed off of him. And so, they got some good guys up front that give their backs a chance. And again, it's you always be on top of it with him because he can extend plays at any moment, and a big play can pop. And so we got to be ready to roll.
Zach, obviously y'all were in the mix for Schobert during free agency. I mean, why are guys like that at such a premium in this league?
Well, you like guys that are all about ball and high football IQ and are great communicators. And, so again, Schobert's a guy that we're familiar with, having played twice last year, and he's a good fit for what they're doing down there.
You mentioned
go ahead, Lap.
You mentioned Minshew is a guy that will extend plays. You had a quarterback that rushed for 60 yards, scrambles against in the Eagles game. Now Minshew's got 60 yards in the season. He's carried it 12 times. I mean, you got to be heads up and stay in your rush lanes with this guy, don't you?
And that goes at this point for most of the QBs in this league, the way the league's headed. But Gardner, certainly, he's young. He's got fresh legs. He doesn't look to run necessarily. He looks to extend and throw, but he's more than capable of getting what he needs to get.
But do you believe an offense needs an identity? And if so, what do you think your all's offensive identity is?
Well, the key for us is just to play with the lead, so we can lean on the run game and marry it with the play actions in the neighborhoods and not depend on the drop back game, which is really where our first two games ended up there in the fourth quarter. And even in overtime, as we were struggling a little bit in the run game, we started throwing the ball a little bit more in overtime there. Still had some big opportunities, really. If we could connect on any of three particular passes, we probably win that game, get the ball in the field goal range. But again, it's just things that we continue to work through as we're fitting new pieces into the puzzle. And it's an ongoing process. It doesn't click overnight. A lot of guys started practicing here about 8 weeks ago. And we just continue to look for improvement every single week from our guys.
Coach, Sean McVay worked under Gruden, and I was wondering if you had much contact with Jay, and if you've talked any ball with him.
No, not. I mean, I know Jay a little bit. Always thought highly of him. He's had a good system there in Washington, and he's done a nice job here in Cincinnati, obviously. And whether he remembers this or not, he tried to get me to go play for his Arena League team at one point when I got released by his brother in Tampa. He called me, but I was already on my way to the CFL. So I don't know if he remembers that or not, but
he does.
I mean, how can you turn down Winnipeg? So that didn't work out. But he's always been great to me in the conversations I've had with him. Think highly of him.
You guys lost to the Jaguars last year at Paul Brown Stadium. Do you go back and look at last year's tape a lot, or you just focus on mainly this year?
No, absolutely. Anytime you got film against the same coordinator, same team, same personnel, you always go back and see how our guys played against certain personnel and things we could have done differently in that game. And God, you really kick yourself there in the first half. Wasted a lot of opportunities in scoring position. But yeah, absolutely, we go back and digest that tape.
Zach, Jacksonville's a team that's reloaded their roster and kind of offshored a lot of their top talent as they're kind of in a restructuring process. Do you feel like this is the kind of game that y'all really need to win since y'all kind of went through what y'all went through last year and are trying to kind of get towards that next playoff window?
We just need to win, period. It doesn't matter really who we're playing. We got to focus on the things that we can fix, and there's plenty of them right now. It started really on Monday with us the day after the game. And, we've talked a lot to our guys about the approach. And sure, there's things that we got to concern ourselves with the opponent. We got to be ready for things they're going to do. But we need to fix ourselves in a lot of ways right now and come out ready to go on Sunday. And I'm very confident that our players will be able to do that.
Zach, I know you make a big deal out of, competing and having situational football competitions, and one of them is 2-minute football.
Yeah.
And offensively, you've had some success in your 2-minute, maybe, leaving some points in the field, but you're getting points. Defensively, though, it's been a struggle, giving up big touchdown drives in that conclusion of halves and games. How frustrating.
Yeah, it's something we got to clean up, and we got to spend more time doing it in practice. Sometimes just emphasizing things paints a better picture for the guys, and the urgency of the communication can help. And so that's something we'll reinforce this week and do a great job cleaning up. But again, it's all complimentary, and we can't kick the ball out of bounds to start the kickoff and give the other team the ball at the 40-yard line. It changes their mindset a little bit, gives them a little bit of hope. So it all ties together.
Coach, what about what you did well? What pleased you now that you had a chance to really look at that game?
Well, I think certainly there were some moments there on offense, particularly on the perimeter, where guys are really making the progress that we need to get the run game to take off. Some of those carries that were 6 to 10 yards had chances to be much longer. We're really just a detail away from breaking probably 3 that I saw that could have been, an 80, a 60, and a 40-yard touchdown run. Where again, it's just close, and maybe people don't see it, but we do, and we just know we're one detail away from getting those big explosive runs. And that demoralizes the defense to where everything else starts to open up a little bit more. And so, again, I saw some things. There were some moments there with the offensive line in the run game. I know everything always gets pinned on them, but there were some things that they were doing their job. They were doing a great job, and we got to get all 11 to be on top of the details so we can really get the run game moving.
Zach, I know you're focused more on the Jacksonville defense, but what have you seen from Eifert in that Jaguars offense?
Yeah, I know his receptions aren't necessarily through the roof right now, but he draws some penalties. He's a tough matchup for guys. And so, there are ways to use him where he doesn't necessarily get the ball, but you can feel his presence out there. And again, we've got so much respect for Tyler and the job he's done. And he's in a system that will also fit him well. We felt like he fit well here last year. And, so again, that's not an easy guy to go against. He's certainly a weapon for him.
You said you guys were up front with him and told him straight out, "Hey, we're not going to re-sign you." Was it an age thing? Was it an injury risk thing?
It's just a hard decision that you got to make for your team, and obviously we believe in the tight ends that are still there at the position. You saw that we didn't add anybody. It wasn't like we were going to go out and draft or go and sign one in free agency. We wanted some of those other guys to step up. And but again, that was really nothing to Tyler. That was just the future of the position for us. And again, it's important when a guy has given everything he's given this organization that you're up front, you let him know exactly what you're thinking. And I think guys tend to appreciate that.
Do you see Jay's influence in what Minshew is doing, or is Minshew doing the same kind of things he did last year, or do you kind of see Jay's influence on him this year and they have to adjust a little bit?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. Jay's a good coach and he's going to do what's best for their offense. And so I'm not the one probably to give credit to wherever it is the reasons for their success.
I mean, with Minshew, the main thing is you got to keep him in the pocket, right? I mean, that's really it's not a great mystery this week, is it?
Yeah, I mean he's got great vision and does a great job extending plays in the pocket and out of the pocket. And he throws a great touch. You can tell he's got a great sense for throwing guys open and plays with a ton of confidence. That's the number one thing you see is when a quarterback's out there, you can tell he's operating with confidence. That's something you got to be very much aware of on defense.
He comes from the Mike Leach system, in college football. He was one of Leach's proteges. There's been mixed success stories and not so much so. What do you think about the system that Leach runs and how it translates to the National Football League? How do you evaluate it?
It's lethal. He's had nothing but success dating back to my sophomore year of high school when I was at Norman, Oklahoma, and he was tearing it up with Josh Heupel. Josh's junior year set all the records, was up for the Heisman.
Yep.
That was my first introduction to Mike Leach that he runs, and he's been successful anywhere you put him. He does a great job. They got plenty of receivers that play in this league, plenty of running backs that play in this league. The quarterbacks are playing in this league. You look at guys like my name just blanked. But some of those guys that came out of Tech that hung around there for a little bit, Graham Harrell being one of them, and some guys at Washington State that have gotten in the league, after he coached those guys up. So I think people are now more open to different styles of quarterbacks, whereas 10 years ago when he was just getting started at Tech, there was probably wrongly a knock against that style in the NFL, but people are realizing that they're wrong. It's those guys are having great success in the air raid and in similar systems to that, and these guys are coming in playing with a lot of confidence and leading to a lot of great things for their teams.
Hey, Zach, should Joe Mixon have more than 7 receptions this season? Is that number one that you wish was higher?
Say that one more time.
Should Joe Mixon have more than 7 receptions this season? Is that a number you wish was higher right now?
It's just it's a number that comes naturally sometimes, and we'll continue to do things that feature him and get him the ball. The good thing about where we're at right now is we have a lot of weapons at the skill position group when it comes to receiving. And when you start getting into a way where you're trying to force balls to people through the play calls, just to get guys going, we got too much talent around here to worry about that. We just got to let the balls go where they may, call the best plays to put us in the best position, and just let Joe read it out and get the ball where it needs to go.
2 more minutes with Coach.
Zach, it still feels like there is, a lot of the stuff that y'all do, a lot of the concepts you do are very much what, the Big 12 has ran historically, and, a lot of open space stuff, especially in the passing game. Do you feel like there is still some of that perception that, because there are things that conceptually haven't been done in the NFL recently, you're still kind of fighting the stigma and trying to explain what you're doing with your offense?
I don't ever feel, maybe it's out there and I'm just not aware of it, but I don't feel. We're very confident in what we're doing. And again, we just got to get more points out of it.